Hello and welcome. Today we've got Dr. Christina Rahm, and today we are going to be discussing how 90% of our water is filled with GMO. Now, just before we begin, you can subscribe to our Telegram channels and to nicholasveniamin.com for my free email updates. And if you're watching this for the first time on YouTube, I will leave the link below in the description for the full interview, unless, of course, myself and Dr. Christina Rahm can choose our words wisely due to the insane censorship that's happening right now. Christina, thank you for joining me. How are you and what have you been up to?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for having me on your show. I think I was in Ethiopia, then I went to Mexico, and now I'm in Cyprus. And I had the privilege of meeting with the president of North Cyprus today, and also meeting some pretty influential people, because their quest in North and South Cyprus is health and wellness. And they're, like every government out there, trying to wrap their arms around how do we increase wellness so that our health is better. So it's been very interesting meetings, also working on a research center and a wellness clinic over here. So very exciting when you meet with governments that are really trying to improve the health and wellness of their people.
Absolutely. So why don't you tell us what kind of wellness you're contributing in Cyprus with the president that you've met today? By the way, congratulations.
Oh, thank you. He was really, I really liked him, and also met with other people surrounding him that I was very impressed with. But I on a project where we're developing wellness, which will be basically a combination of North and South Cyprus, because, there's two governments, but the land is all owned by the EU. And so we are looking at different research projects that support wellness and what products you should take and how that impacts not just a typical person, but also how nutritional supplements impact people that have like autoimmune disorders and cancer, and as well as how it impacts anti-aging and stuff like that. So we're working on that, as well as research in other areas where we will use certain devices that are cutting edge and different IV formulations that no one has used before, in an approach to really be able to treat people that either don't have any hope or people that want a different option than what they've been given in their particular country. So it's exciting. And also, one more thing, we're looking at manufacturing certain nutritional and pharmaceutical products possibly here.
Wow, amazing. So most people, including myself, are unaware just how much GMO is in our water. Why don't you explain to us what type of GMOs are in our waters and how they get in there and how it's bad for us? And then we'll go into what we need to be doing to detox our bodies from that.
Right. That was a conversation we've had while I was here too, because Cyprus is, it doesn't matter where you go anymore. When you talk about a organic food or pure water, is it really organic, and is it really pure? Because our land, air, and water have been contaminated, especially by heavy metals. And one of the things that people don't understand is that heavy metals actually won't leave the stratosphere. And they think that just because it's up in the air, out of sight, out of mind, right? The problem is the nanotechnology of a lot of things like nuclear war, pollution, GMOs, it's very small, right? It's the micron. It's so small that you can't see it. And so it's easy as human beings for us to forget that it's even there. Because this has happened for years and centuries, decades, it's in almost everything. So even though Cyprus is not as advanced as the United States, so possibly Cyprus doesn't have as many GMOs, and their water, land, and air are probably healthier, right? Because they're not constantly being exposed to things. It still stays in the water and the air, and is in the food and in everything. And so a lot of people, I live in the United States, so we take our water for granted. We think that if our government is giving us water, it's got to be healthy, right? We also think if we go to the store and we buy water, that's got to be healthy. But the truth is, because of how small, for example, GMOs are, because that is a nanotechnology, it goes into everything. It's fluid throughout the system. And so it actually, there's traces of it that are in most products, including water. And depending on the country you're in, that can range from anywhere from 20% to 80% to 90% of the GMOs, and that have some form of that, right, in the water. And of course, the land and the air. So while we have all these advancements in pharmaceutical, which I always say I'm very appreciative for the advancements that we have in all these different areas, we tend to forget that cancer is growing even more. Autoimmune disorders are 300 to 8,000 times more prominent. And I've said it a lot. If you push things over the edge when you have a tipping point, then your body, your DNA, your epigenetics can sometimes not go back to what you need it to be. So even though the theory is that it's not even a theory. We know you can live to be 130 years old. When your body's toxic and you're drinking water that has GMOs or other heavy metals in it or other toxins, your body's not getting the nutrition it needs. And if it does, it can't process it the way it needs to do, or it needs to behave, because you have so much of the things clogging up your system. So the truth is the body's able to get rid of heavy metals through the kidneys and the liver and the bladder and different organs, right? But when it gets clogged up, when there's so much inside of you and you've been exposed to it since you were born, right? Or even before you're born in a mother's stomach, it's impossible. And it's something that it's not kind of, how do I say this? It's not sexy to talk about it because it's depressing, right? But I think one of the reasons for me that it was so important to create products like Clean Slate and Restore that I worked on, and there's definitely other products out there as well, but those particular products do help the body detox. If you can take certain things, and if you've made certain products that when you made them, like when I make them, I look at not just if there's GMOs, I look at, if there's wheat, if there's gluten. If there is wheat and gluten, then I let people know. If I haven't had it tested for GMOs, then I have to tell people the truth about that as well. But I even do what's called GMO tracing. So we look at what happens, if there's any traces or if there's any DNA, it's called GMO DNA, to make sure. And of course, even then, Nicholas, I'm never 100% positive because I always have this element of doubt. But I go the extra step with every ingredient and every product to make sure that it's not just the technology that I use that makes it more bioavailable and efficacious. I make sure it's safe for people and that it's really going into their body to assist the body with what it should do. And it would be much easier not to worry about it, but it's something that keeps me up at night. And I think for most parents, for most people, whether you're a daughter, son, husband, father, wife, we care about our bodies, but we care about those around us. So it's really important that we realize that even the water, and I don't want to put the name of the water, even the water we drink, possibly has things in it that are harmful to us. And not just kind of harmful, because like I said, when that builds up in your body, that's when epigenetics happen, and that's when autoimmune disorders happen, and things like cancer, Alzheimer's, et cetera.
Absolutely. Let's talk about chemtrails and how that's affecting us as well as this.
Yeah. So the chemtrails are something that I'm sure you know, Nicholas, and for your audience, just so everyone does know, chemtrails have been something that we see more and more. When I remember the first couple of times I saw chemtrails, and I was thinking, gosh, that's awesome. Like, look at the sky. That's beautiful. But the truth is the chemtrails contain chemicals, heavy metals, different things that are very harmful to us and to our environment and to our lives. And those chemtrails are becoming more and more prominent. The chemtrails are, you can see almost every day. And we know that when we see those, what you're seeing is this kind of like you see in your body, you're seeing the pathways get clogged really in the air. I'll use the word clogged because we call them NRF2 pathways in the body, but in the air, it's different. What you're seeing is basically the molecular substances from those heavy metals, from those pollutions in the air. And that's a presentation of what is occurring in our world. So, if a nuclear bomb went off, we'd all be scared, right? But when we see chemtrails, again, a lot of us are ignorant and we think, gosh, that looks pretty. but it's not. And that's one of the other reasons, whether we want to talk about it or not, that we have so many different issues right now with the weather. People talk about global warming a lot. And what I would like to say about that is a lot of this is, again, heavy metals and toxins in our environment that we've got to figure out a way to control and to get rid of. It's easier. And I think I said this the first couple of times we started talking. As a scientist, when you look at issues in the world, whether it's political or environmental, they're huge, right? How do we solve these? How do we even put our arms around it? Whether this was planned or not, I'm not the person to know that answer. But I am the person to understand that if we don't do something about it, that there are grave consequences. And it's not just a consequence of being older or looking older. It's a consequence of having not a great quality of life and having issues with your health. And so it's really important that since we can't control the environment, we can't control everything politically, that we're controlling what we're doing with our own body, and we're assisting our bodies every day to get rid of things. And I want to say one more thing when it comes to chemtrails. To think there's not different agendas and different things happening in different countries as it pertains. We're all worried about biological things right now. And you go to my LinkedIn site, you'll see a lot of articles that I've posted actually on this topic. You'll even find some stuff on chemtrails. But if, this has been going on again for decades. So there's been all kinds of things that have been released that are not just typical heavy metals in our environment. And if something happens in Hiroshima or Chernobyl, for people in the United States, for example, or people in England or London to think that's not impacting them, that's completely false. We know now that the repercussions of those things, again, are not leaving the atmosphere. The stratosphere is being affected. Everything is actually been affected repetitively. And there's so many things that have occurred that we don't even know about and that will continue to occur. Mm-hmm. And I always say, I don't want to ever scare people, right? That's not a good tactic. I don't like that. So instead, I would like to just empower people to understand if they're going to, for example, drink water, then they need to make sure that they are taking things that can help detox if there was anything in that water. If they're breathing air, they need to make sure they do that too. 70% of the air in a room is, in most living environments like here where I am, if it's closed in air, it's very toxic as well. So a lot of people think if they go inside, so for example, if there was a nuclear war or something outside, if they come inside, that they'll be able to get away from like the chemtrails and the different things that are outside. That's not true. Mm-hmm. In fact, the air in your room, in your house, unless you're using certain air filters or doing certain things, that impacts your lungs, it impacts your breathing. And that's why asthma and allergies are so much on the rise. That's why COPD keeps going up every year. And it's something, again, that it's easier for us to ignore, but instead we need to realize it. We need to take care of our bodies and take the right steps so that we can't control the chemtrails. We can't control everything, but what we can do is try to take the steps to control our own lives and our own bodies.
Absolutely. So let's talk about what we can do now to detoxify our bodies from these heavy metals and a routine maybe.
Yes. So I have in fact, next time we talk, I'll make sure I go into this more, but I have slide decks that I've been presenting to doctors and scientists. The International Science Nutrition Society is a society where we do research and we look into things. And I have, we just did a couple of case studies on asthma and COPD. And in those studies, the people were taking Clean Slate, which is a product that I worked on, in the morning, 10 drops, and then 10 drops at night. Some people were doing 7 drops in the morning, 7 drops at lunch, and 7 drops at night to really help with the symptoms that were associated with certain respiratory illnesses or issues breathing, in their nose or in their mouth. Or some people have allergies that they had hives, but they were also attached to the breathing. So they did the same the doctors were using the same sequence, either 10 in the morning, 10 at night, or 7, 7, 7. And they started with 2 in the morning and 2 at night, but went very quickly up and had very good results. At the same time, they were taking Restore, anywhere from 1 packet a day to 3 packets a day. And now we provided product, for those case studies. So, but they had incredibly great results within 2 weeks. They saw some changes within a couple of days, but they saw resolution in a lot of the symptoms that had happened for years after about 2 weeks. Another product that we just had a new case study on was Relive Greens. And that's a greens product, but it's wheat and gluten-free, GMO-free because of the way it's made. And we've had a lot of great results with that as well. So those are really the products that have helped people that have problems with breathing. And I will say this, as far as the water, those 3 products are very significant because, again, when I talk detox, people think clean slate, but Restore has turmeric, curcumin, resveratrol, black cumin seed, aloe vera, a bunch of ingredients, apple cider vinegar, that raspberry ketones that really help support the body in detoxing. You have these NRF2 pathways, and in those pathways, you need to basically help things get out of the body, but those get clogged up. But if you use certain ingredients and you use certain techniques when you're making products, then that's able to significantly help people in that detoxification process. So I really feel like when I talk a lot about clean slate, I forget to talk about the other products that also help, not just with providing the body with what it needs, but helping the body detox. Because if you can give your body the support it needs, then you're able to have much better health and wellness. And that includes in breathing and in GI issues as well.
So what's the success rate of these products? And if you could share some data with us, if you may.
Absolutely. So one of the reasons I'm in Cyprus is we're doing a study, a registry, where we're looking at it as it pertains to the current situation that's going on, as well as anticipated possible situations which may occur. At the same time, we're looking at autoimmune disorders and any kind of primary or secondary illness. So we have people from alopecia to psoriasis to respiratory illnesses across the board. And we've had very good success. Some people, though, I'll say this, some people that have, like with autism and certain other illnesses, it can take longer. We've noticed that the more someone has to detox, the longer it typically takes. So there have been people that it hasn't helped for, it's helped, but they haven't seen significant results for a couple of months to 3 months. And we even have other cases where there's significant issues in multiple areas, and it's taken up to 6 months. And that doesn't surprise me at all. And I say this all the time. It takes a long time to get sick, and people don't realize that. It develops over years when you get an autoimmune disorder, cancer, different types of illnesses. So it takes time to rectify that. And if you tell a patient, okay, you're going to go in for chemotherapy, and it's going to take 6 to 9 months, and here's your regimen. You're going to lose your hair. You're going to be very sick. You're going to lose your smell. You're going to lose your taste. I mean, I've gone through it with myself and with a lot of people around me. They accept that. But for some reason, if you tell someone, okay, I'm putting you on a wellness regimen that are supplements that help you assist your body to look, feel, and be better in self-care and greatness, so that you can possibly change something and rearrange something so that this epigenetic doesn't cause an autoimmune disorder, or hopefully reverse something that's horrible. People are like, what? I don't want to take a month. I don't want to take 2 or 3 months. And, the cost is minimal, of course, compared to other therapies. And I'm not saying I'm not against one and for the other, but what I am saying is people need to look in the mirror, and they need to understand, again, this is their body, and they get to go, I'm in Cyprus right now. I left my home, but I'm here, and I take this body wherever I go. So I better take care of it. And instead of dreading it, whether people use my products or someone else's, you need to look forward to it and make advancements. And you also need to understand, if you really are making these changes in your life, then you can have some kind of reaction. It can take you longer than you think. Like, there's some people, when they detox, they have a headache, or they have trouble sleeping, or they have more energy, or they break out in a rash for a few days. Usually it's about 2 to 3 days, and then they get over that. But it's your body changing. It's like being in a bad relationship. And even though you know you need to leave, it's so hard to leave, right? Because you just think, well, I can change this little thing, and then maybe I should stay. But the truth is, when your body needs a change, your body needs a change. And I think this is a wake-up call for all of us right now, because this current situation we're all in is making us all really look at ourselves and understand that we do need to care about what's happening. And so there's some good things. I always like to say, let's look at the good things that have happened during all of this mess. And I think that's one of them. And I encourage people to love who they are and to love the inside of their body, and to understand that the chemtrails are affecting them, whether they're inside a room or outside of the room. And to understand that what happens in a country like Ukraine with Chernobyl has impacted all of us, and not just one country, or Hiroshima. It's impacted our whole world. So it's a duty, in my opinion, that we accept this, because, when you bury your head in the sand and you ignore things, they don't go away.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Well, Dr. Christina Rahm, it's been a great honor to have you. Thank you so, so much for sharing that with us. And I will happily put the link below in the description so that people can have a look. They can even contact you and ask you further questions if they wish. Is there anything else that you'd like to say to the viewers before we finish?
Well, I want to tell you guys, I have an interview with Nicholas that we still have not put out there, and I can't wait to do it. We're changing, because of the contract that we have to change the name of the series of the podcast. But you guys are very fortunate to have Nicholas, because he is giving you guys the truth. And I do a lot of interviews and podcasts right now. And I just want to say, Nicholas, it's it seems like a casual topic to talk what we're talking about, but it's a huge deal. Mm-hmm. And it actually is impacting a lot of people's lives. So I just want to tell people, one person does make a difference, as you can see from what Nicholas is doing. And each of you, the audience, can make a difference, but you have to accept the responsibility to be a change, and not just be a person that doesn't make changes and stays in the present scenario. It's time that we all make positive changes in our lives.
Well, thank you. And you're making a big difference and change in our lives. And thank you so much for your kind words. That's amazing. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. And we'll speak again very soon. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Nicholas.
Bye-bye.
Bye.